It's fair to say that Brendan Schaub isn't the most loved person on the internet, but with him announcing his retirement from stand-up comedy, I think now is the perfect opportunity to have some honest reflection and ask ourselves, how on earth did Brendan end up in this mess? One key observation that I've noticed is that whenever Brendan seems to be in trouble, it's always his fault. I feel like most of the problems that he faces can be traced back to his own actions.
Dicey.
The key point here is that Brendan seems to keep making avoidable mistakes. And one of the mistakes that I've noticed that he's been making over the years is his very poor response to criticism and the hate online. And by online hate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fighter and the kids subreddit. It's plain and simple, really. Brendan just needs to ignore the noise. He needs to block out all the little gremlins and the keyboard warriors who are commenting and leaving hateful stuff on there, because it's not doing Brendan any good, and him looking at it and responding to it only gets him in more trouble. He should really take some advice from Joe Rogan. As I'm aware, I don't think the guy looks at any comments, whether they're good, whether they're bad, because if it's not in your head, if you're not even seeing it in the first place, then it's not playing on your mind. I am on nowhere near the same level of popularity as Brendan, but I know personally that if I listened to every hateful comment or every stupid thing that somebody commented on one of the videos, I probably wouldn't be posting YouTube videos. I probably would stop. I'd call it quits. And if I listened to everybody and every negative response, I'd quite literally go cuckoo. I would go crazy. When it comes to comments and hates online, ignoring is always easier said than done, but without a doubt, in almost every situation, it always leaves you better off. Another problem that I've noticed, which I haven't seen addressed outrightly, or maybe it's just the way that I'm saying it, is Brendan's lack of authenticity. This is more to do with the reasons why so many people hate him, but the main problem with Brendan, in my opinion anyway, is that when you watch Brendan, you don't know what version you're gonna get of him. And that's because when I look at Brendan in, it could be the Joe Rogan Experience, it could be on his own show, it could be on, it could be on whatever, he just looks very uncomfortable in himself. And I noticed this especially in the presence of Rogan's boys. He just looks out of place, and I don't think he feels very comfortable. And I think that's when we start getting the inauthentic, contradictory version of Brendan. Because I think on camera, I don't know what it is. Maybe he just doesn't really know who he is. I understand that you need to play to the camera and make things entertaining. Otherwise, people aren't going to watch. It's as simple as that, right? And you see, when he's playing up to the camera and all of these lies and all these contradictory behaviors are occurring, it's very hard for the viewer to trust that person because you don't really know who it is. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's one big mystery, because one day on this show he's saying this and another day he's acting like this, but then he said that there and then there's another lie here, and the things just don't add up. It's all smoke and mirrors, and for the viewer it can probably create a really confusing viewer experience. And I think one of the main things with social media is that you feel like you have a connection with the person that you're watching. And I feel like because of Brendan's maybe a lack of confidence in himself, maybe he doesn't quite know who he truly is, or he feels like he needs to play up to the camera, it can just come off as inauthentic and plasticky and fake. And I feel like people don't really like that. I think if he embraced being a more honest, showing who he really is as a person, I feel like people would actually enjoy him. I'm not going to sit here and lie to any of you. I've watched some funny moments, clips on YouTube, and the guy, conversationally, he can be funny. He can do some things that make you smile or make you chuckle. But those moments are so far and few between. It just really doesn't help his case. I'll give you an example when I say that people don't really know who he is. If you take his sudden interest and obsession with but say trucks in particular. He's got his new show where he does up the TRX, right? Now, I'm not saying people can't have spontaneous interests, but where did this come from? Is it because Rogan got his Cybertruck and he's really into cars and motors, and Brendan was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll do that too? For a lot of people, the dots, they're just not connecting, and everything seems to be very spontaneous and very frantic, and his behavior resembles somebody who's lost or maybe isn't comfortable in himself. And I genuinely think this. If he was to embrace just being the most authentic version of himself, and that would transfer over camera, I generally do think he could build a pretty strong fan base. I really do. I feel like just because of the lies and the contradictory behavior, he's really shot himself in the foot, and I genuinely think it's a missed opportunity, because the little bump that he got from Joe Rogan, he really could have used that to his advantage. So I don't know what it is, but he seems lost. He doesn't seem himself, and most importantly, he doesn't come across as authentic. It wouldn't be an honest reflection on Brendan's career on social media and stand-up comedy if we didn't address some some of the lies that he tells. Now, this was going to be a little bit funny because I saw a video by this YouTuber. I'll put a picture of him on now. And he made a point that I can't tell whether he was joking or not, or whether he's being serious. I think he was being serious. But what he was saying is that he genuinely doesn't think that Brendan remembers the things that he's saying.
I don't think Brendan thinks he's lying. I think he's that redacted. He's that regarded. He actually doesn't remember all these clips. He has no memory of these pictures, of these instances. I don't actually think he's lying.
Okay, and just hear me out, because I put a little bit of stock into this. I don't know whether it's the CTE or the continuous blows in the head from his UFC days. When you guys catch Brendan in lies, I genuinely do not think he remembers the things that he says. Who knows? Maybe we shouldn't be so harsh on him. Maybe the CTE is catching up with him. Of course, it's not. CTE isn't funny in that, but it's just something that I found amusing. Oh, his comedy career. Oh boy. Now, I have a take here that I wouldn't say it's controversial. I think it's pretty much common knowledge, but I think Brendan's career in stand-up was kind of doomed from the start. And I mean that not in terms of his technical ability. Well, that as well, but we'll get into that in a minute. I think that his rise in stand-up comedy, it was doomed to fail. Like, it was dead on arrival. Think about it. You have this bump from Joe Rogan. You have all of these fans, all of this attention. Plus, you have other comics in the industry who are, trashing you, saying, oh, this is, only his first year in stand-up comedy and he's already got a special. Who does that? I feel like there was too much expectation, there was too much noise, there was too much pressure. Even if Brendan was the best stand-up comedian on the entire planet, that first special, regardless of his ability, it would have been underwhelming because there was so much expectation, there was so much noise around it. I can't see how anybody could possibly deliver on something like that. Bear in mind that I think, in order for you as a stand-up comedian to get a special, you have to be maybe 5-10 years into the game. And think that Brendan released his special, I think, within the first year. Obviously, he's going to rub people up the wrong way. And I think the biggest problem there is his inexperience. He didn't take the time to work on his craft. If you take somebody who's been training for a year, or they've had one fight in the UFC and then yeah, you're going to be fighting for the championship next week. It's like, well, what about all the other people? People have put in 10, 15, 20 years. I think this guy has just walked in because he's had a little bump from Joe Rogan and he's got a special all of a sudden. Definitely didn't help his case. I do wonder though, and let me know down in the comments below, if you think Brendan's career, his comedy career in particular, could have been very, very different, because there is a small part of me, a small percentage that thinks just for a moment, could things have been different if Brendan if he came up more organically, if he came up through the system properly, if he had maybe 5-10 years in the game and then he made his first special. I do wonder if his comedy career would have been different. Would he have been funnier? Would he get the hate that he's getting now? All these questions run through my head. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about, so do let me know in the comments down below. Looking at Brendan's career, in my opinion, all of these things are factors that he could have controlled, and he could have a better career for himself, if you will. Yeah, it's sad, it's frustrating, but thank you very much for watching this unorganized train wreck of a video. I hope you enjoyed. Of course, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you've enjoyed. It really does help out the channel, and hopefully you'll be joining me in the next one.